My wife proposed an open marriage. I used to believe in perfect moments. Like that Sunday morning when Lisa danced in our kitchen, pancake batter dripping from the whisk as sunlight painted golden streaks across her hair. 7 years of marriage, and she still took my breath away. At least, that's what I told myself, desperately clinging to an image that was already fading. The changes were subtle at first. A missed goodnight kiss. The growing space between us in bed. The way her phone always lay face down on any surface. I dismissed each warning sign, labeling them as products of our busy lives. Her promotion at the marketing firm, my extended hours at the architectural studio. We were successful. We were happy. Until we weren't. Looking back, I should have noticed how she stopped sharing stories about her day. How her laughter became performative, a carefully crafted sound that never quite reached her eyes. The intimacy between us withered like unwatered flowers, but I kept pretending everything was fine. Because that's what you do when you're afraid of the truth, you build elaborate facades around your fears. That Thursday evening, I came home early, planning to surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai place. The house was unusually quiet, and I found her sitting at our dining room table, perfectly composed, as if she'd been waiting for me. The food grew cold as she spoke, her words precise and practiced. "We need to talk about our marriage," she said, folding her hands on the table. I recognized that gesture. She did it when presenting to clients, maintaining control. "I think we should consider opening our relationship." The words hit like ice water. "Opening our what?" "It's only fair for both of us." "You need a change, too." Her tone was clinical, devoid of emotion. "We're both still young. We shouldn't limit ourselves." I stared at her, this stranger wearing my wife's face. She continued talking about boundaries and rules, about modern relationships and evolving needs. But all I could focus on was the slight tremor in her left hand, the only crack in her perfect composure. "Is there someone else?" I finally managed to ask. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Never her eyes anymore. "This isn't about anyone else. It's about us growing together." I watched her take a sip of water, her lipstick leaving a perfect crimson mark on the glass. 7 years of marriage, and I never felt more distant from her than in that moment. As she laid out her vision for our future, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a proposal. It was a confession wrapped in the guise of liberation. The Thai food sat untouched between us, its aroma mixing with the suffocating weight of unspoken truths. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice whispered that this was just the beginning of a nightmare I wasn't prepared to face. 3 days after Lisa's proposal, I was still sleeping in my home office when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Marcus, my childhood friend, looking more disheveled than I'd seen him in 20 years. His usually pristine suit was wrinkled, dark circles shadowing his eyes. "I need help," he said before I could even greet him. The morning sun caught the silver threading through his dark hair. When had we gotten so old? Inside, Lisa was already gone, leaving behind only the lingering scent of her perfume and another carefully worded text about discussing our future. I led Marcus to the kitchen, where coffee cups couldn't hide the tension lingering from last night's argument about boundaries and trust. "Someone's threatening to expose me," Marcus said, his hands trembling around his coffee mug. "Remember that investment deal I told you about last year? Turns out it wasn't exactly legal." The irony wasn't lost on me. Here was my oldest friend, confessing his secrets, while my marriage crumbled under the weight of unspoken ones. "How much do they want?" 200,000. He laughed hollowly. "But it's not just about the money anymore. I think they're watching me." I thought about Lisa's recent behavior, the hushed phone calls, the locked phone screen, the way she'd pause mid-sentence when I entered a room. "What makes you say that?" Marcus leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Yesterday, I found something in my apartment. A listening device, professional grade. And there are these cars that keep showing up wherever I go." The chill that ran down my spine had nothing to do with the morning air. "Have you gone to the police?" "Can't. Too much at stake. He pulled out his phone, showing me a series of threatening messages. But that's not even the strangest part. They know things about you and Lisa. My coffee cup froze halfway to my lips. What do you mean? They mentioned your architectural firm, that project you lost last month. Even knew about Lisa's promotion. Marcus's eyes met mine. These people, whoever they are, they're not just after me. The morning sun cast long shadows across my kitchen floor, and for a moment, I could swear I saw movement in them. Marcus's presence had always meant safety, friendship, but now he'd brought something else into my home, a darkness that seemed to echo the growing void in my marriage. I should go, he said suddenly, standing. But be careful, okay? And don't tell Lisa about this. I don't know who to trust anymore. As I watched him leave, his words echoed in my head. Don't tell Lisa. The same Lisa who wanted to open our marriage, who'd grown distant and secretive. The same Lisa whose phone now buzzed on the counter with a message I couldn't see. The bugging device in Marcus's apartment kept haunting my thoughts. How many conversations had been recorded? How many secrets had been caught in that invisible web? And why did those threatening messages include details about my life? I picked up Lisa's phone, my finger hovering over the home button. One press and I might find answers. Or maybe just more questions. But before I could decide, the screen lit up with an incoming call. The name made my blood run cold. It was Marcus. The dating app profile felt like a betrayal, even as Lisa's words echoed in my head. These are the rules. She presented them over breakfast, typed and printed like a business contract. Her wedding ring caught the morning light as she pointed out each clause, her voice steady but her fingers trembling slightly against the paper. I stared at my phone screen now, at the carefully curated photos and generic bio I'd crafted. Each swipe felt like another crack in the foundation of everything we'd built. The messages blurred together until one caught my eye. Emma, 28, her profile radiating a warmth that seemed almost forgotten in my own home. Life's too short for bad coffee, her first message read. The simplicity of it made me smile, the first genuine one in weeks. We met at a small cafe downtown, far from anywhere Lisa might go. Emma wore a yellow sundress that seemed to capture sunlight, her laugh genuine and unrehearsed. For 2 hours, I almost forgot about the surveillance devices, Marcus's disappearance, and the stranger my wife had become. You're not very good at this dating thing, are you? Emma teased, stirring her third latte. You keep looking over your shoulder like you're expecting someone. That obvious? Like a neon sign. She leaned forward, her expression shifting. But then again, I understand paranoia. Especially when you're being watched. The warmth drained from the afternoon. What do you mean? Your friend Marcus, she said softly. I know about him. About the people following him. About your wife. My coffee cup clattered against its saucer. Who are you? Someone who's trying to help. Her fingers brushed against mine, but the touch felt calculated now. Your wife's brother. Have you noticed anything strange about him lately? The mention of Lisa's brother sent a chill through me. David had always been close to Lisa, maybe too close. But what did he have to do with any of this? I'm pregnant, Emma said suddenly, her eyes never leaving mine. And before you ask, it could be yours. That's impossible. We just met. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Time is a funny thing. So are memories. Do you remember every moment of the past month? Every drink you've had? Every place you've been? The cafe walls seemed to close in. I thought about the gaps in my memory, the nights when sleep felt more like unconsciousness than rest. Lisa's voice from weeks ago. You need a change, too. Who are you really? I demanded, but Emma was already standing, gathering her purse. Ask your wife about the Hotel Meridian, she said. Ask her about room 412. And whatever you do, don't trust David. He's not the brother you think he is. She left me there, surrounded by half-empty coffee cups and questions that tasted like ash. On my phone, Lisa's latest text glowed. David's coming over for dinner tonight. Don't be late. The rules of our open marriage lay crumpled in my pocket, each clause now reading like a carefully orchestrated step in a dance I didn't know I was performing. And somewhere in the city, Marcus was still missing, Emma was carrying an impossible pregnancy, and my wife was preparing dinner for her brother, a man who suddenly felt more like a stranger than ever before. The Anderson family dinner felt like watching a play where everyone knew their lines except me. Lisa's mother had arranged the table with surgical precision, crystal glasses catching light like trapped stars, silver gleaming with practiced perfection. But beneath the polished surface, something darker churned. I watched David's hand linger on Lisa's shoulder as he passed her the wine. Their mother beamed at the gesture, unaware of how his fingers traced small circles against Lisa's silk blouse. 7 years of family gatherings, and somehow I'd never noticed the way their eyes met, holding secrets in their depths. David's been such a blessing, their mother gushed, refilling glasses with trembling hands. Moving back home after all these years. Taking care of the family investments. Her smile wavered. We've all had our struggles, haven't we? Lisa's fork scraped against fine china. Mother, please. I remembered Emma's warning about David, about room 412. Across the table, he sat too close to my wife, their shoulders touching in a way that seemed both familiar and forbidden. When had this intimacy developed? Or had it always been there, hidden behind years of family photos and holiday celebrations? Aunt Margaret, 3 glasses deep into the evening, suddenly swayed in her chair. The debts, she slurred, her face flushing. We should tell them about the debts. Her eyes rolled back, and she slumped forward, her wine glass shattering against the pristine tablecloth. The chaos that followed felt orchestrated, David taking charge, Lisa at his side as they carried Margaret to the study. I moved to help, but their mother's grip on my arm held me back. Let them handle it, she whispered, her fingers digging into my flesh. Some things are better kept within blood. Through the study's half-open door, I caught fragments of their whispered conversation. Lisa stood too close to David, their foreheads nearly touching as they spoke. We need to keep this between us. Lisa's voice trembled. No one can know. David's response was too low to hear, but I saw his hand cup her face, an intimate gesture that sent ice through my veins. Their shadows merged on the wall behind them, and for a moment, I couldn't tell where my wife ended and her brother began. Later, as we drove home in silence, I studied Lisa's profile in the darkness. The woman I'd married seemed to flicker like a faulty hologram, revealing glimpses of someone I'd never truly known. David's always been there for me, she said suddenly, her voice distant. When things got bad. When the family needed solutions. What things? I asked, remembering Emma's warnings, Marcus's disappearance, the budding devices. She turned to me, streetlights casting strange shadows across her face. Some secrets protect us, she whispered. And some secrets destroy us. The trick is knowing which is which. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. Check your attic. Third beam from the left. You'll find what they've been hiding. Lisa's hand found mine in the darkness, her wedding ring cold against my skin. In the rearview mirror, I could swear I saw David's car following us home. Reality has a way of unraveling slowly, then all at once. After the family dinner, I found myself scrutinizing every moment of my marriage, searching for signs I'd missed. Each memory felt tainted, like photographs slowly bleaching in harsh sunlight. Marcus answered my call on the third ring, his voice tight with tension. I've been watching her, he said without preamble. You're not going to like what I found. We met in a dimly lit bar across town, where Marcus spread out surveillance photos like tarot cards predicting my future. Lisa entering office buildings at odd hours. Meeting men I didn't recognize. But it was the timestamp that caught my eye, times when she claimed to be working late. There's more, Marcus said, sliding his phone across the table. Emma contacted me. She's not just pregnant, She claims someone drugged you at a party last month. The one at the Meridian Hotel. The hotel. Room 412. Emma's words echoed in my mind as fragments of that night started surfacing. The bitter taste of the last drink, the way the room had spun, waking up with hours missing from my memory. I need you to track Lisa's movements, I heard myself say. The words tasted like ash. Marcus's eyes darkened. Already on it. But be careful, these people, they're dangerous. The debts your in-laws are hiding? They're just the surface. My phone buzzed, Emma. Need to see you. It's about the baby. And your wife's brother. Before I could respond, another message appeared, this one from Lisa. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. The casual cruelty of her lies made my chest ache. I opened our shared photo album, scrolling through images of happier times. That's when I saw it, a photo I didn't recognize. Lisa in our bedroom, her brother David's arms around her waist, both of them laughing. The timestamp, yesterday afternoon, when I was at work. My hands shook as I zoomed in on their expressions, the intimacy between them undeniable. The photo disappeared moments later, deleted remotely, but the image was already branded into my mind. Your wife's brother. Marcus's voice crackled through my phone later that night. He's been making regular visits to your house. Always when you're gone. I'm going to follow him tomorrow, see where he... The line went dead. I tried calling back. Nothing. My text messages went unanswered. Outside, a car door slammed, and I heard Lisa's key in the lock. The sound of her heels on hardwood felt like countdown to an explosion. She swept in, perfume masking something else, a scent I recognized from our sheets this morning. David's cologne. You're home early, she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. In my pocket, my phone buzzed one final time. Marcus. Found the truth. She's dangerous. Get out now. Then silence. The photo of David in our house haunted me like a ghost, pixelated proof of betrayal. Over breakfast, I watched Lisa spread jam on her toast with practiced precision, wondering how many other secrets she spread just as smoothly across our lives. I saw David's car in our driveway yesterday, I said carefully, studying her reaction. While I was at work. Her hand paused mid-spread, just for a moment. He dropped off some family papers for Mom. The lie rolled off her tongue as easily as breathing. You know how she gets about legal documents. Funny, I said, my coffee growing cold. The security camera showed him staying for 3 hours. Her smile flickered like a faulty light. Are you spying on me now? Are you giving me reasons to? The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. Before she could respond, my phone buzzed, an unknown number sending coordinates to a hotel downtown. The Meridian. Where Emma had warned me to look. I have to go, Lisa announced, standing abruptly. Client meeting. I watched her leave, then called Marcus's number for the 100th time. Straight to voicemail. His last message echoed in my mind. I've uncovered the truth. She's dangerous. At the Meridian, the concierge recognized Lisa's photo immediately. Oh yes, Mrs. Anderson. She's been here several times this month. He checked his computer. Always meeting a gentleman in the bar. Not her brother, older, gray hair. Distinguished looking. My mind raced. Not David? Then who? Marcus's words about following her took on new meaning. Back home, I confronted Lisa. Want to tell me about the Meridian? What about it? Her voice was steady, but her fingers kept touching her neck, her tail when lying. You've been meeting someone there. And it's not David. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. You're being paranoid. This open marriage was your idea too, remember? We both know that's not true. I stepped closer. Where's Marcus? Her eyes widened slightly. How should I know? He was following you. Before he disappeared. Your friend's problems are his own, she said coldly. Maybe he ran from his debts. Or maybe he found something he shouldn't have. My phone buzzed again, a video file from Marcus's number. But when I played it, the screen showed only static and a glimpse of a hotel room. Room 412. I have to go, Lisa said, grabbing her keys. We'll talk about your paranoia later. As she left, I noticed something fall from her purse, a hotel keycard. The Meridian's logo gleamed mockingly in the afternoon light. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Marcus's number. If you're reading this, I'm probably dead. The truth is in room 412. But be careful, your wife isn't the only one you need to watch out for. The real danger is closer to home than you think. Outside, I heard David's car pull into our driveway. Again. Marcus's apartment felt like a shrine to unfinished conversations. Coffee cups still waited on his desk, files scattered as if he'd return any moment to complete his thoughts. The silence held weight, pressing against my ears as I searched for answers. The hard drive was hidden inside an old psychology textbook, hollowed out with surgical precision. My hands trembled as I connected it to his laptop, each file folder a door I wasn't sure I wanted to open. Images loaded slowly, each one a knife twisting deeper. Lisa entering the Meridian Hotel, David's hand on the small of her back. Security footage timestamps created a pattern of betrayal. Tuesday afternoons, Thursday evenings, Sunday mornings while I worked on deadlines. The intimacy in their body language spoke of something deeper than sibling affection, something that made bile rise in my throat. I had to make sure you were ready before showing you everything. I spun around to find Emma in the doorway, her presence somehow both expected and shocking. Gone was the carefree dating app persona. In its place stood someone harder, more focused. Who are you really? She pulled out a badge. Private investigator. I've been tracking your wife and her brother for months. The pregnancy story was a test, to see how you'd react, to gauge if you were involved. Involved in what? The Anderson family's web of fraud, blackmail, and… She hesitated. Other activities. Your wife and David aren't just having an affair. They're running a sophisticated operation. Marcus found out too much. My mind raced back to the family dinner, and Margaret's drunken words about debts. Is Marcus missing? Emma said carefully. But his surveillance equipment was still running. Look at this. She pulled up video footage from the previous week. Lisa and David in our bedroom, my bedroom, their conversation clear through hidden microphones. No one suspects. David's voice crackled through the speakers. The open marriage suggestion worked perfectly. Now we have complete freedom to move everything through the house. Lisa's laugh, once beloved, now sounded like breaking glass. He's so desperate to save our marriage, he'd believe anything. Just like Marcus was so desperate for friendship, he walked right into our trap. The footage continued, but I couldn't watch anymore. Years of memories realigned themselves, showing me the truth I'd been too blind to see. Every late night, client meeting, every family gathering, every strange phone call, all pieces of a puzzle I'd refused to assemble. My phone buzzed, a text from Lisa. Meeting David at the house today. Important family business to discuss. Don't come home early. Emma touched my arm. We need to move carefully. They don't know we have this evidence yet. And there's more dash. A sound from the hallway cut her off. Footsteps approaching. We froze, watching the door handle slowly turn. One more thing. Emma whispered urgently. The woman you think is your wife? She's not who she claims to be. Her real name is Dash. The door burst open. The house felt different in darkness, familiar shapes transformed into accusations. I sat in my office chair, surrounded by wedding photos that now seemed like elaborate props in a long con. The text I'd sent Lisa still glowed on my phone. Flying to Chicago for emergency client meeting. Back tomorrow. Every creak of the old house echoed like a countdown. 9:47 p.m. Lisa's key in the lock, the sound of her heels on hardwood. A second set of footsteps, heavier, deliberate. David. Their whispered voices carried up the stairs, an intimate duet I was never meant to hear. I thought of every family dinner, every casual touch, every knowing glance I'd dismissed. The truth had been performing right in front of me, and I'd been the perfect audience, willingly blind. We should move everything tonight. David's voice drifted up. While he's away. Lisa's laugh, that familiar sound now twisted into something unrecognizable. He's so predictable. Always trusts my stories. The sound of glasses clinking, celebrating their deception. I touched the recording device in my pocket, Emma's words echoing in my mind. Get them to confess. We need it for the investigation. When I finally descended the stairs, the scene burned itself into my memory. Lisa in David's arms, their embrace far from sibling affection. The way she touched his face, traced his lips, gestures she'd once reserved for me. Well, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I guess the open marriage wasn't about my needs after all. They sprang apart, but not with the panic of being caught. Instead, their movements were almost lazy, unconcerned. Lisa's smile held something I'd never seen before, a cold amusement that transformed her entire face. How long? I managed to ask. Always, David answered, his arms sliding around Lisa's waist. Since before you met her. You were just convenient. Lisa stepped forward, her wedding ring catching the light. It's not personal. You provided the perfect cover. Respectable architect husband, beautiful home, all the right social connections. We needed that. For what? For the operation, she said simply. The marriage, the family business, Marcus's disappearance, all pieces of something bigger than your simple little life. The truth struck like physical pain. You never loved me. Love? She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. It's just physical between David and me. The real relationship is with someone else entirely. Someone who understands ambition. I thought of the gray-haired man at the Meridian Hotel, of Marcus's last warning. Every revelation felt like drowning in deeper water. Get out. I whispered, then louder. Get out. This house is as much mine as yours. Lisa started, but David touched her arm. Let him have his moment, sister dear. He'll understand soon enough that he's lost more than just a wife tonight. They left together, their shadows merging on the wall like a grotesque dance. In the silence they left behind, I played back the recording, listening to their confession with numb detachment. On my phone, Emma's message glowed. Did you get it? We need to move fast. They're planning something for tomorrow night. Outside, an unfamiliar car started up. Through the window, I watched Lisa and David drive away, their taillights bleeding into the darkness like an open wound. Revenge tastes different than I imagined, not sweet, but metallic, like blood on the tongue. As I sat in the pre-dawn darkness, their recorded confessions ready to send, I wondered if this was how Lisa felt all these years, powerful, terrified, and somehow hollow all at once. The evidence compiled itself like a tragedy in digital form. Photos from Marcus's surveillance. Hotel receipts. Bank statements showing suspicious transfers. The recording of last night's confrontation, their voices stripped bare of pretense. My finger hovered over the send button, trembling with the weight of destruction. I thought of our wedding day, Lisa's voice breaking as she promised forever. Now I understood why she'd cried during our vows. Not from joy, but perhaps from some buried remnant of conscience, knowing she was wrapping lies around my heart like barbed wire. The first message went to their mother. Then the entire Anderson family. Business associates. Friends. The complete exposed truth of Lisa and David's relationship, their financial schemes, their calculated deceptions. Each sent message felt like another nail in a coffin I was building for my old life. Their mother called first, her voice shattered by grief and horror. Tell me it's not true, she begged. But the photos spoke for themselves, her children caught in moments of intimate betrayal, their expressions free of shame or remorse. Lisa's texts began flooding in as the evidence spread. What have you done? You don't understand what you're destroying. Please stop. We can talk about this. And finally, They'll kill us all for this. The last message made my blood freeze. Emma's warnings about something bigger, Marcus's disappearance, the mysterious man at the Meridian, all pieces of a darker puzzle I'd stumbled into. David arrived at my door around noon, his usual polished facade cracking. "You fool," he spat. "You have no idea what you've started. The people we work for, they don't allow loose ends. Like Marcus was a loose end." His silence was answer enough. By evening, the destruction was complete. Lisa's career in ruins, their family's reputation shredded. Social media exploded with the scandal, the siblings' unnatural relationship becoming public fodder, their professional networks disintegrating in real time. Then Lisa appeared on my doorstep, rain-soaked and broken. Her makeup ran in black rivers down her cheeks, but her eyes held something I'd never seen before, genuine fear. "Please," she whispered. "You have to hide me. They're coming." I studied her face, the face I'd loved, the face that had lied so beautifully for so long. Behind her, headlights swept the street, and I saw her body tense like a hunted animal. "You'll never believe me," she said, her voice cracking. "But everything I did, the affair with David, the marriage, all of it, was to protect someone. Someone they've been holding over me for years." The headlights drew closer. In that moment I had to choose: close the door on her forever, or step into an even darker truth than I'd imagined. Time doesn't heal all wounds, it just teaches you to carry them differently. 6 months after the night Lisa appeared on my doorstep, I sit in my new apartment, watching dawn paint the city in shades of possibility. The weight of the past has transformed from a crushing burden to something more manageable, like a scar that only aches when it rains. I didn't let her in that night. Whatever truths she claimed to hold, whatever danger pursued her, I had finally learned to close doors that needed closing. The headlights that had terrified her belonged to federal agents, Emma's real identity revealed at last. The investigation she'd been building went far beyond a simple case of infidelity and fraud. The truth emerged in pieces. Lisa and David weren't just siblings in an unnatural relationship. They were key players in an international money laundering operation. The man from the Meridian Hotel was their handler, a shadow figure who had orchestrated their entire performance, including their childhood. The Anderson family fortune was built on decades of carefully constructed lies. Marcus's body was found 3 weeks later. I attended his funeral alone, carrying the weight of knowing he died trying to protect me. His final message had been a warning, not just about Lisa, but about the entire web of deception I'd unwittingly been part of. Emma visits sometimes, her pregnancy now visible beneath her detective's badge. We talk about normal things, weather, movies, the small mercies of ordinary life. She never mentions that night, or how close I came to being another loose end tied up by Lisa's handlers. Instead, she brings case files, helping me understand the scope of what I escaped. "The baby isn't yours," she told me one evening, gentle but firm. "That was part of the investigation, a way to get close, to protect you. I'm sorry for the deception." Strangely, the revelation brought relief rather than pain. In the aftermath of Lisa's betrayal, I've learned to appreciate honest truths, even difficult ones. Emma and I have developed something unexpected, not romance, but a friendship built on the shared experience of unraveling lies. Lisa writes sometimes, from wherever she's hiding. Her letters arrive unmarked, containing fragments of explanation, pieces of a story I'm no longer interested in completing. David disappeared entirely, some say to South America, others whisper about witness protection. Their mother sold the family home and moved to Arizona, changing her name to escape the scandal. The house where Lisa and I built our life of lies sold quickly. The new owners painted it blue, erasing the last visible trace of our shared history. I drive by sometimes, not out of nostalgia, but to remind myself how easily the familiar can become foreign. The dating app still sits unused on my phone. Not from fear, but from a newfound appreciation for solitude. In the quiet moments, I'm learning to trust my own company, to recognize the difference between loneliness and peace. Recently, I found our wedding album while unpacking. The photos show what I thought was perfect happiness. Lisa in white, my smile genuine, our future seemingly infinite. I didn't burn it, as some might expect. Instead, I placed it on my bookshelf, a reminder that even the most beautiful lies eventually face the light of truth. Loss hurts, but it teaches you. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best chance for a new life. Not because the pain disappears, but because you learn to build something honest from the ruins of deception. In the end, that's the only truth worth holding, that even after the deepest betrayal, the heart's capacity for renewal remains unbroken. Not unmarked, but unbroken. The sun rises fully now, another day beginning. Somewhere in the city, Lisa continues her running, David plans his next move, and the wheels of justice slowly turn. But here, in this moment, I am simply alive, breathing, healing.